So let's start with health.
Yeah. So that's one of the areas of, well, I'm proud of all of it, but I'm exceptionally proud of the area of health because that really is truly the most important thing. Like when you're talking about physically, right? What are the three areas that people really seek help in? Their health, their relationships, and their money. I mean, those are the three main things. Well, which one of those three is truly the most important? It's your health, because without that, you don't have anything. It doesn't matter without that. So I have not been ill in 7 years since the year we started working together. And that is also through the pandemic.
Exactly. We were amazingly healthy during the pandemic, right? And Stacy is the prime example. No vaccination of any kind. We did not get vaccinated, and we did not get sick during the pandemic. Yeah.
So that was the last time that I had been ill, was the year that we started working together, and not at all since. Wow. Perfect attendance in life.
Exactly. Perfect attendance. That is true. Exactly. It's, when you're a teacher or a mentor, in my case, and teacher, of course, my heart melts when spiritual student, right? Spiritual mentee comes and doesn't miss the sessions, comes and ready and willing to change and learn. Hey, that's blessed life for both of us. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I don't really think we've ever missed a session either.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you never got sick, and then you became a vegetarian.
Yes. And that was an experience of me listening to my own body. It was not a mental thing. It was not forced. It was not because someone told me, because I read it, any kind of outside. It was not any of that. It was my body told me that that's what I need to do when I did that. And I believe that's part of why my health is the way it is. But it was a spiritual reason. And I didn't know it. I was aware of it at the time. This was almost 6 years ago now that I made the change. When our vibration is rising, there's certain things that we aren't going to vibrate with, that it's just not going to be on the same, using linear terms, on the same level or same frequency. So I believe that it's like that with food. That's for my personal choice, And
it was easy and prominent. That's what I like to specify. Easy because the vibration didn't match anymore. So your new vibration matched with being vegetarian. And I say vegetarian, but you always correct me. You always say vegan. And you actually are such a vegan who, it's crazy. She is very crazy vegan, meaning in a good sense. But even you're hungry and tired, and that's when people slide usually and get into that pizza, which is not vegan. But your determination, you are vegan, and on a very high level of food choices. So it's because it's spiritually, vibrationally matching your state in choices in physical, right? In a choice of food. So
yeah, exactly. Because when we make a decision based on listening to our body, based on, for spiritual reasons, it's not mental, it's not forced, it's sustainable. And so I don't feel with my nutrition, food choices, I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. And I think that that's the big thing. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle choice.
Exactly.
And I do not feel like I'm sacrificing, because if I did, then I believe I wouldn't be doing it for the right reasons. And I believe that that's 100% the reason why, even like you said, if I'm tired, starving, not in my normal environment, I can still find a way to make those same choices. And I believe it's for because of that reason.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. That's huge. That's huge. Majority of the population is on medication and sick at specific age, right? That when we get through that threshold of age, people get sick. And all these years you've been working with me, no sickness. That's big. That's big.
Well, yes, and medication free. I mean, maybe I took an Advil occasionally, but I mean,
Right,
I don't have any prescriptions, never in the last all these years. Yeah.
Exactly. Amazing. Amazing. We're celebrating right now because
Thank
this
you.
is not only for public to hear, this is for us to acknowledge the achievements, because this is not just easy breezy thing. It's a hard work. Heavy lifting has been done. Right. And you did not get scared when you were talking to your friend and actually came to me instead of running in the opposite direction, right?
Yes. Yeah. She told me it was hard work, and I'm like, great, that's what I need.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Let me sacrifice here. Let me do the heavy lifting, but results are in front of us. And how about business? Let's talk about business.
Yeah. Well, when
Our favorite subject.
Yes. Well, when we started working together, I had no business. I had was just starting my business officially.
And you quit your job, right? You quit your job right there because you decided to start your business, and you made that leap of faith. You already made that leap of faith. You were so directly, let's start with the clean slate. Let's get rid of the job and let's start the business, and then let's start the spiritual work at the same time. You were smart. You are smart.
Yeah. It was intentional. It was guided, and it worked out how it was meant to work out. But yeah, it was a business that I had been doing on a part-time basis for a lot of years, but to quit the steady job, the steady paycheck, it's a whole nother ball game, as we know. So that's what I had done literally right before we started working together. And so, yeah, at that time, I basically had no real business yet. And now I have 3 businesses.
And you were by yourself at that time, right? Nobody was supporting you. So that's huge. So we should celebrate this moment too as well, because a lot of people are scared because what am I going to do? Will my business survive? Will I be able to provide myself? And you did it beautifully over the years. So how is your business improved? Is there any results that you can talk to us about?
Oh yeah. Well, there's lots. I mean, if we go into maybe the money part, I guess, because a lot of people, I think they think business money.
Uh-huh.
So, was starting my own business, so I was worried a lot about money. It's kind of natural, you don't have that steady paycheck anymore that you're used to having for years. But as I progressed through the journey, my faith really grew. And so I went really from worry to faith, and also starting your own business, the way that most people are taught is to hustle. And that's, of course, conditioning and teaching and all of that. And that's that was my mindset at the beginning. But then again, through the journey, I learned that God always provides. And I learned that very humbly, but in a very good way and a very miraculous way.
Because you can't learn it by reading books, because you will not get it to faith. Your faith will not grow if you just mentally exercising it, like reading a book, going to a conference maybe, and they're telling you, oh, you can follow your dreams, oh, you can achieve everything you want, and then you come back and you don't have this yet, right? And of course worry comes up. So you have to learn it first. You have to take it to your heart. And you
absolutely did. Yes. And I have so many miracles in that way. And also how clients would come to me. And they always have in a very miraculous way. So I built my business from the ground up with a spiritual foundation, and it's really cool.
Right, that's right. And you said you started with a hustle. Do you hustle now?
No, I don't think I barely ever really did. Maybe the first year or so, but it takes time to unravel that conditioning and build the faith.
Right,
but
exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't hustle at all.
Yeah, in fact, how do we call you? The Queenie.
The Queenie. Yeah.
The Queenie. Who always has the money to do whatever she wants to do. And she doesn't hustle because she's in the flow. So how does it feel to be in the flow?
Oh, it's amazing. It's the business I always wanted. I mean, when I was first starting out in my business, people were constantly in my ear telling me, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. If you don't do it this way, you're not going to be successful. And that was, I mean, even people close to me were doubting me and they were telling me that I wasn't going to make it work. And I knew there was another way. I knew that business was for me. And I was determined to do it a different way. And this was before, people now, it's very mainstream to talk about doing business using our feminine energy. And like, that's a really common phrase, or people saying that they're,
not when we started.
Right. Talking about this topic of not hustling. This was a very taboo thing to say when we started. Now it's super mainstream. Everybody talks about it, but I mean, not then. And so people were in my face telling me that I was not going to succeed. And I just knew that business, like I said, was meant for me. And I knew that I could do it this way, meaning in the flow. And I was just determined, and that's all I could see. That was my vision. And I was doing the work. I was doing the daily work, meaning the spiritual work, to actually make that a reality. And I did.
And amazing, we have experienced so many miracles, as you already mentioned. And those miracles were small and big, because we had all range of them, right? So one of the miracles I would like to point out was, like, after a session, we just had one session. And how about that example? You can share some maybe details about a person, a buyer who was buying a house. I think she was buying a house, or maybe selling, I don't know, buying, I think. And her credit was messed up. And then what happened? Can you just, in generally, what miracle happened? right after the
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, we had several of these types of scenarios where the issue would get released during the session and then matrix would completely shift. So in this specific example, there was a buyer who there was something, an issue with their credit that came up at the very 11th hour right before we were supposed to close. Like, I mean, this was a few years ago. I don't remember the exact details, but a few days before or something like that. And then the lender had said, this is something that could potentially take up to 30 days to resolve, and we might have had to extend our close of escrow and all the things that come with that. The last 11th hour, not pleasing for any party in the transaction. And then right after the session, I get a phone call that miracle happened and the issue was cleared and we were able to still close on time.
Huge miracle, because it affected everybody. It was win-win for everybody.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what we need in these transactions. We need win-wins for everybody. So
exactly. And that's how we do business. Win-win for everybody. That's the way, the spiritual way of doing business. And it didn't happen just once, right? As you mentioned, it happened several times. So a miracle has been proven on a regular basis that it happens when we work on it, and it just miracle happens, everything clears and divine flow is established and gets us to the desired result, win-win for everybody. Okay, and another example I want to mention how well, all I say is more than $1 million building. And it wasn't even now, when million, it doesn't even seem small, right? I mean, now it seems like small thing, but before, when it was a little bit several years ago, how can you share with us about that?
Yeah. So I don't know the value now, but yeah, a few years ago when over $1 million was more of a big deal. Here we're in Phoenix. So I had this client that I had done several deals with him in the past, and out of the blue, he reached out and asked me if I would sell one of his properties. I'm like, well, of course, yeah. And then he said, this was several years ago, so I don't remember all the details, but maybe it was the same conversation a little later, maybe a future conversation. But after we had started to talk about this one property, he said, well, I actually have another property for you to sell too. It's this multifamily building. And you want to do that as well. And I can't want to do that as well. The part of the miraculous part of this is that when I was doing some research about the properties, I had noticed that he had listed that property the year before with a different agent. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out, which I did ask him about later. But I truly believe that it was the spiritual work that I was doing that brought that client to me a year later.
Right. So when you get ready inside, right, in the internal way, then matrix shifts, we say it, or the outer world shifts and brings you the results again. So here we are talking about examples, smaller. They're not small examples. They're smaller, right, than $1 million, more than $1 million building, but still small regular transactions, regular houses. It's a still big miracle and big transaction that clears very quickly and changed and became a miracle, and the big one as well. So these are the examples. There were points. So what I always teach and preach and live and show and model and everything, we say here in our Radiant Mastery Academy, decision first and money will follow, right? So how does it apply to your life? What about decision first and money will follow? Because an example would be, you have to, like I mentioned before, you've been with me for so many years. And obviously you have to renew when your round ends, and you constantly, not again constantly, but you have to make a decision again. Do I want to continue or I want to stop? Because some clients stopped after a couple of years, you continued with so many years. So how, and sometimes the life is different. I mean, life is life. Sometimes we have the money and sometimes we don't have the money, but you still have to continue. So how do you handle this?
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, like you said, over the 7 years, there's been several renewals, and it's been a journey, especially at the beginning. There were times where, yeah, the money wasn't necessarily just sitting there ready to go, right?
In fact, when you started, when you quit your job, no business yet, you're just having a plan to have your business. Nobody is there to support you. You don't want to ask money for support from parents, right? So that's a tough spot to be in. And instead of going to another job or trying to hustle with the business and try to make money, what did you do? You came for spiritual work. That's quite an amazing pivot, right? From focusing on the business like everybody else would do. Let me get the money first, then I will think about spiritual. You did the opposite, and you did the right thing, as we can see so many years later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I quit my job, like you said, no support. And I had a couple months of savings. And yeah, I would say most people would say that they need to hold on to that, or they need to spend it maybe directly into their business, let's say. And yeah, no, I went the other way.
Exactly.
I like to do the opposite of what most people do. Usually that gets me the results I want. So, but yeah, as far as making the decision each time, I look at working with you like how most people would look at tithing, right? So the concept of tithing is you tithing, what is tithe? It's your first fruits. It's the first 10% off of what you make, and you immediately give that to God. That's what tithing is. And when people ask, like when spiritual teachers, leaders say, you know, who or advise you to who to quote tithe to, right? In these types of conversations, they say, well, you need to be giving your first fruits to whoever is feeding you spiritually. That's what you're supposed to do. And so that's how I see it. I see it as, this is my spiritual journey. This comes first as far as what needs to get done. It's got to come off the top. It's got to come first. And once I have that committed, once I have that done, everything else will be added to me, meaning all the other things will get paid. Anything else where, you know, money has to go, it will work out. Just like the concept of tithing, it's the same concept of, we have to release that certain amount for God to multiply it. And that's how I look at it, is this is my spiritual work. This is how I'm getting spiritually fed. That has to be separate. I can't think of it like something else that I maybe can or can't do, or it's an option, or it's a luxury. It's not a luxury. My spiritual growth is not a luxury. It is a must. So that's how I perceive it.
That's actually brilliant to say that my spiritual work is not luxury, it's a must. Because The same is for me, and the same is for my clients, our people who are in a spiritual academy, my Reading Master Academy. And you even mentioned it's like bills. You have to pay the bills, and you don't think about it that should I get started, or I shouldn't get started or continue. It's the bill I have to pay. You said it yourself. I'm repeating your words.
Yeah. And you can think of it that way too, in the sense that it's just got to get done. Like, it's got to get paid. It's not an option. So when I say it's like a bill, that's what I mean. It's like, it's going back to the point of, it's not a luxury. It's not a let's think about it. So
yeah. I don't know if I should say it here. We usually don't curse, but here it was very funny when I asked you, would you like to continue? And what did you say? F yes.
Yeah.
That was very funny. So I took the liberty to say it here.
Yeah.
But it's a great attitude because, and the point of our right now discussion of it is, when you did it, you made the decision to continue every single time, or the decision to start when you didn't even know if you get any results whatsoever. There were no guarantees. I never guarantee anything, right? I never promise, because that's on you how you do it. I'm here to provide guidance and mentorship, but you have to do the work. And so no guarantees, no promises, very future, who knows what will happen, right? At that time, so many years ago. Now we're looking in hindsight and saying, wow, that was the best decision you've made, right? As you say, because look what it got to you, where
best
it
decision of the last decade of my life, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And so, and the point is, you made that decision. You made it as a bill or a tithe. You have to pay it no matter what. And then you said it, everything else will be paid. The money shows up, but that money doesn't show up prior, right? Do you agree that money doesn't show up prior? Sometimes you do have, sometimes you don't have.
Sometimes,
but even back to the first time, when the first time, when you were in that, I just can't imagine it. When you were there, I remember that moment, right? You come to me and you say, I'm here. This is what I'm having nothing, because I just quit my job. I'm starting my business. I'm starting from ground zero, right? I have nobody to support me. And so you made that decision. You made the commitment. You said yes to yourself and spiritual work. And then you never regret it, because money showed up. Not the wealth, because divine will not give you immediately wealth, because you have to earn it first. You have to process and do the work. But money came, and they were enough. And for Stacy, the Queenie, we know that it's not just little. Stacy likes experiences and expensive things, and she likes to live comfortably. So I always laugh about it, because for Stacy, just enough is a little bit higher than you think. Yeah.
Yes. I still had the means for my luxury experiences.
Exactly, because God is opulent, divine is opulent. There is no need to be poor. So it's just comes in different ways. It's a spiritually based. Everything is here faith-based and spiritually based because of our hard work, right?
Yeah, it's very different than someone that's living in fear, and maybe they have millions, multi-millions, billions net worth, but they can still be living in fear.
Exactly.
So it's coming from that place, from the spiritual place of, I will be provided, and that's it. And whether or not it's sitting in the bank or not, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it will be provided. So it's a big difference, because I know a lot of very unhappy, wealthy people, and I'm not saying I don't want to be wealthy. Yeah, sure I do. But What's the movie that we just watched?
I was just thinking about it. Famous, it's now in my head. It's a famous phrase. I'm now keep repeating it every time I say something. So the phrase is, the man was a rich son of a very wealthy father, right? And so he phones the father and he says, I don't want anything to be anything like you. I'd rather be good and broke than rich and broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just amazing that during this time, all the needs have been provided for and more. There's still been this overflow, but the difference is the trust and the faith. Because like I said, it might not just be sitting there tucked away for a rainy day and this false sense of security, because that is a false sense of security because it's based in fear if someone's thinking that way. But to everything has just always worked out the way that I've desired for the most part.
Exactly. And there is no broke either. There is no broke.
No.
With
No.
divine, without spiritual work, we're not broke, period.
Yeah, exactly. When you're with God, you're not broke. So
Exactly.